Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've had a wonderful week. This is Marcel. I'm here at the Toronto Hunt once again. Today's topic is going to be dessert wines. Before I talk to you about the dessert wines, I like to present you with a song that is really appropriate. Things are opening right now. We're going to phase two very soon here in Ontario, and things are really, really exciting around the planet as life goes to a little bit of what we call normal. This is Frank Sinatra's song "My Way," written by Paul Anka, and here we go. And now the end of COVID is near, and so we face the second phase. My friend, I'll say it clear. I'll state my case, of which I'm certain. We lived in isolation. We could not travel every highway. And more, much more than this, we did it our way. Regrets, we've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. We did what we had to do. We saw it through without exception. We planned each meal we had, each careful step along the grocery store, and more, much more than this, we did it our way. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, that we bit off more than we could chew. But through it all, when there was doubt, we ate it up and spit it out. We faced it all and we stood tall and did it our way. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dessert wines. A lot of us don't like dessert wines. A lot of us don't have the palate for sweet wines. But nothing better than to finish a great meal when you've had some really terrific dry wines to end with a little bit of a sweet wine. Also good for your digestive system. But it is fantastic when you pair it with dessert. It enhances the dessert. It makes the dessert better. Always remember to have sweeter wine than what the dessert is. So let's start with fortified wines. Fortified wines, so ports are terrific. Tawny's vintage ports are good. We have an example here of Quinta de Foz, a really nice tawny port. Or here we have the example of Tom Eddy, a port made actually in California. And these are sweet wines, but not overly sweet, that work well with pies. Pies are not overly sweet. Sometimes we do put a lot of sugar in pie, but for those pies that are not overly sweet, this fortified wines will work really, really well. Another great dessert wine is late harvest. Late harvest is basically grapes that have stayed in the vine after the harvest happens, maybe 1 or 2 months. These grapes start shriveling up, and what is called the noble rot, they start rotting, the noble rot called Botrytis cinerea. And so the sugar content starts elevating and makes for a really, really nice dessert wine. Some really nice late harvests in the world are from Sauternes. Sauternes is in the south of Bordeaux, and Chateau d'Yquem being one of the most expensive dessert wines in the world. Also, looking at really expensive late harvest wines, we can go to the Tokaji region in Hungary, which is the oldest and the first wine designated region in the world, and they make a superb late harvest called Tokaji. Those are probably two of the most expensive dessert wines in the world, Sauternes and Tokajis. But everywhere else in the world makes late harvests. California makes great late harvest. In this case, I have here an Australian wine, and the great thing about dessert wines or sweet wines is that they can age a long time. This wine is approximately 20 years old and is still in really, really good shape, and the wine tastes fantastic. Over here we have from South Africa, Rustenburg. This is a really lovely late harvest. Late harvests are really, really nice with chocolate. So is ice wine, but some of my favorite pairings with late harvest wines is definitely chocolate for sure. This is another nice, beautiful late harvest, which is made with Semillon. And by the way, Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc are the grapes that are used to make the lovely wine from the south of Bordeaux, of the Sauternes region. The wine I mentioned, Chateau de Chem, is made with Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon. This is a really nice example of another style of dessert wines, and which is actually the Pasito style, which is dried out grapes, and this is what they do in the Amarone, in the Valpolicella region. They dried out the grapes. They use the sweeter ones to make their dessert wines there. Over here, we have a lovely Vinsanto. And Vinsanto is truly one of my favorite dessert wines. It is not overly sweet. It is kind of the idea of a late harvest, but it actually starts fermentation. It ends fermentation from the spring to the fall, very slow fermentation. And then they let it go the next year sometimes and the following year, and it starts fermentation, ends fermentation. I've tasted one late harvest that's over 100 years old. Superb, great option, really works well with most desserts, and this is probably the most versatile of them all. This is a nice example of the finisher, which is this is made by Rosal Run in Prince Edward County, and this is a really nice, inexpensive way of making a dessert wine. Lastly, we have ice wine, which is made with grapes that stay probably until January in the vine. Therefore, they're really frozen. It has to be -8 degrees for 3 consecutive days, and then you can pick. And those are probably the sweetest dessert wines you can find. In here we have Peninsula Ridge from 2008. This is a lovely Vineland ice wine from 2006. And here from 2017, I have Henry of Pelham, which is a really, really nice ice wine also. We cannot finish this video without mentioning the Germans. The Germans make and have been making sweet wines for a long time. Some of the best dessert wines, the Auslesers, the Trockenbier Auslesers, best dessert wines perhaps in the world that can age